Ladies, gentlemen, let the show begin. Alright, do you like video games? And I know you do. What about entertainment? We got that too. Video game, I'm not a video game. Video game, oh no, what's the name? Video Game Armada.
What's wrong the gamer boss bronze? The baby run for a true backlash.
And the first lady of media was Sneaks. Boo!
Sneaks? What does that even mean?
You'll find out later, boss bronze.
Okay, that's a thing. But you know what else is a thing?
What's the thing?
Backlash is old now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. And no, we're not going to start singing because we don't own the property rights for that song.
Oh, that's right.
I don't want to get sued by whoever. Backlash.
I won't sue you.
Oh, that's nice.
Please, thank you.
So we're out all day doing all the good things that Backlash wants to do, which includes a movie, more to the point, Spider-Man Homecoming. So we're going to review it to you guys because we like you guys, and we always do things for you, even on our birthdays. So, how was the movie? Well, since it was a fusion of Sony and Marvel, it could go as well as could be expected, which is very, very well. But I'm getting the hang of myself. Backlash, it's your birthdays. Please have the birthday honors.
Okay, so one day, this young boy, around 15 years old, was bitten by a radioactive spider. He certainly pursues a life as a professional wrestler and faces off against the late Macho Man Randy Savage in a steel cage match. Suddenly, his Uncle Ben dies, and he learns that great power... Wait, am I doing the right movie?
No, you're doing the backstory of Spider-Man ever, except in this movie, which they left out because people are babies.
Oh. Okay, so flash forward then. Okay, we actually start after the time, during the time where Spider-Man was recruited into the Avengers. I mean, recruited to fight the Avengers.
The other Avengers.
The other Avengers in the Civil War. He actually has Happy Hogan as his direct superior and liaison to Tony Stark. So we see a lot of banter between them. After that, he goes on home with this new high-tech Tony Stark Spidey suit, and eventually goes to start saving some crimes. But unfortunately, our favorite wall-crawler is feeling dejected because he wants to be an Avenger. He wants to get more of the action. He wants to leave his hood and actually fight supervillains and all that good stuff. But suddenly, suddenly a friend of his discovers that he's Spider-Man. So hijinks ensue. What's worse, a vengeful construction crew led by Michael Keaton as Adrian Toombs, aka the Vulture, starts running amok in the city with high-tech weaponry.
Quick question. Michael Keaton, which Batman was he?
He was the first Batman after Adam West.
Oh, yeah.
I always get that confused.
Well,
He certainly isn't Val Kilmer.
The first movie Batman, and amazing.
Oh, yeah, the best Batman in my personal
I
opinion.
kind of thought so, too.
But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Back to story.
Alright, so eventually, Spider-Man does find a couple of these weapons that the Vulture is selling, and now he's on the case. Problem is, if you don't know what the main problems is with this, then obviously you haven't been picked up a Spider-Man comic book, film, cartoon, or anything as the like, because just like usual, Spider-Man has issues balancing his superhero life with his home life, his superhero life with his love life, his superhero life with his school life, and then where's the added wrinkle of balancing what he does with Happy Hogan and Iron Man. So, yeah, it's a mess right now for the wall crawler.
Oh, yes. Story-wise, it's definitely one of the best Spider-Man stories I've seen in a long time, since the first one with
Tobey Maguire.
Yes, thank you, Tobey Maguire. And I enjoyed it. And definitely, and even though it's a little predictable, it has more than a few surprises for all the viewers out there. But let's get this going. Let's start with the goods. Who wants to start?
I will.
Or Blue, did you want to add anything to
The only one thing I wanted to add to the whole general plot line that I noticed that I thought was really different and I thought was really cool is the fact that for once we actually have a central character in Spider-Man that literally is a teenager. You know, the other storylines were kind of
Tell me why it didn't do it for you?
Sort of Dawson casting kind of thing, trying to make me think he was really in high school / going to college, but no. This is a kid, and he pulls it off. He sounds like a kid.
He really does.
Well, I'll give Tom Holland credit for this, and we'll get more to it in the goods in a second. But Tom Holland is British, so
What, the Spider-Man?
yes,
Wow.
so
A lot of Brits doing the American stuff. It's very impressive.
just like Andrew Garfield, the last Spider-Man. So yeah, his accent was on point, and like Lou said, he was played by a kid. But to the goods, it didn't make me almost cry by manly tears like the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy did. It didn't reach that resonate on that point. In fact, it wasn't as epic in terms of storyline scale as Guardians. It wasn't as epic or as serious as Wonder Woman. But for a film about Spider-Man, about New York, it was great. You know, it did a good job of not going to most of the same tropes that the past 5 Spider-Man movies have dipped into. In fact, they sure enough made a lot of changes. Some of them will have to hit for the bad because I'm a comic book purist, but we'll get to that in a second. But a lot of changes that would include in my goods is the fact that they know which of Spidey's rogues gallery they explored already. So what do? They either give you or hint at several villains that never got the time to shine. And everyone and their grandma knows the Vulture is one of them. Thanks, Entertainment Tonight. But I'll also say this because it's kind of not a spoiler. You're going to get the shocker out of this. So that's pretty cool. I don't think I ever expected.
And let me tell you, the shocker will be a shocker.
Yeah, I never expected to see a shocker in a Spider-Man movie, especially not like that. But, you know, I also like the fact that you understand where the Vulture's crew is coming from. And early in the story, which it's kind of a spoiler, you have to see it for yourself. They more or less get screwed out of their work, and you know they're forced into villainy, more or less.
And I could definitely appreciate that because that was very realistic in a grand scheme. Not to say that they're justified in being bad guys, but I could definitely understand where it comes from.
They didn't start out as bad guys, and that's the thing. They really shouldn't have went to being bad guys, but they felt like they didn't want to take such a far step back to start over.
They were betrayed.
Yes.
By the system, man. Anarchy, anarchy, anarchy.
I loved this movie was littered with cameos, and you know what? They all felt in place. They used them strategically and in the right way. There's one person we haven't seen for a minute. They get their return. That was amazing. And the main 2 appearances as Happy Hogan. This is the first time since Iron Man 3 where you feel for Happy Hogan. And it's not because he gets messed up at the start of the movie. No, it's because they gave him characterization, a lot of it. And Iron Man, he didn't get to spend as much time as Happy in the movie overall, but when he appeared, he was either being LOL Tony Stark, or he was making a big impact. And that goes appreciated. I mean, maybe in the next movie, especially since Sony still has rights to make their own Spider-Man movies without Disney, maybe Spider-Man will be by himself. Who knows? The suit was good. There was one part of the suit I really liked. Think the purple levitation and Jarvis, stuff like that. You know, I thought that was kind of cool. Spider-Man didn't have that before, but sometimes you need to change. I think that was a cool change. It came at a cost of something else, which I'll get to the bads. Special effects were good. The climax, the final fight scene was, ooh, that was so good. And at the end of the day, Tom Holland proved he was a good replacement. He showed it throughout the whole movie, but...
Who was that again?
Spider-Man.
Oh, right.
But at near the end, where his back was against the wall, literally, he proved himself. That's really good acting for a kid his age, and dang if he didn't pull it off. And all the other actors you had, including a person who played Flash freaking Thompson, came off as believable and even sympathetic. And also, Ned was a good sidekick. Ned is a good sidekick. For all those comic book geeks who know about Ned Leeds, not many people expected him to be a good best friend character. He was really good. And props to the actor who played Ned. Very good. And, like I said, it's a New York movie. At the very beginning, they showed Spider-Man just going around town doing his thing. It was very good. Very good. And finally, let's let everyone else talk. One of the best Stanley cameos ever.
Those are very excellent points, Backlash. I couldn't agree with you more. I found the story myself was great from beginning to end. Both, thoughtful in its story and great and well precise in its action. Have anything else to add?
Oh yeah, one last thing. I did like how the villains actually lived throughout the movie. The Vulture and his henchman, the Shocker, and okay, yeah,
that's going to be for the aftermath.
Yeah, and then they're definitely the Tinker. Mm-hmm. They survived the whole ordeal. Usually these Marvel movie characters aren't named Loki. They usually have a way of biting the dust or being transported by the Space Stone / Cosmic Cube, never to be seen again.
Hey, we'll see how long that lasts. We haven't got introduced to Venom yet.
Right.
Well, I actually thought that I couldn't agree more with what was stated as well. And I like the fact that you mentioned cameos. There were so many awesome cameos of people that we haven't seen in a long, long time. And boom, here they are. And it was quite refreshing. I mean, these actors are just amazing. They put you in the scene. They put you in the now. You actually walk away believing, each rendition of all these different superhero movies, that these people truly are these people, and not just testimony to their acting ability. I can't say enough how much I completely enjoyed Tony Stark. I mean, literally. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was always a great actor, but once he took on the role of Iron Man, and I definitely didn't think he was going to be able to pull off Tony Stark.
Me neither, actually.
So once he took on that role and just lit up the screen, just seeing him now in this movie, it's kind of giving this movie credibility. Just seeing him sit there and have these conversations with this very young and eager Spider-Man, Peter Parker. I mean, it's just refreshing. It's a fresh kind of Peter Parker, which kind of brings me to another thing. I was talking to Backlash a little off camera about these previous Spider-Man. I mean, I found this one was probably, in my mind, the most refreshing. It's almost like a puppy. He's just like happy to be here, happy to be working with the Starks, happy to be trying to impress his master, happy to be showing that he's got what it takes to be an Avenger, pleasing, want to be, and very effectively doing a pretty good job staying on top of what he's doing. And this was played by actor Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Now, this guy, I thought, didn't come across as having any emo, no angst, no hang-ups, unlike our predecessors, like Andrew Garfield. What was his deal? You made some comments.
Emo man.
Emo man. That was what, from the last rendition of Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Then what's the comment about the other dude, Tobey Maguire? I didn't think he'd make a good Spider-Man, first of all.
Yeah, I mean...
He did the job well for me.
He did a great job.
He looked too old, I'll admit, but at the same time, he nailed it. There was no blueprint for a live-action Spider-Man movie. They had a live-action Japanese Spider-Man show, which they took liberties with. But that was pretty much it. They didn't have anything in America like that, let alone a movie.
Was that by Shinji Tojo? Was he the dude?
I think he might have been, yeah.
Huh. Well, what about this Drake Bell? I know Drake Bell. Is that Josh and Drake?
Drake and Josh.
Get out of here!
Yep, that same guy.
He was a Spider-Man?
He voiced a Spider-Man, which I still, depending on how long they've done it, and I think he's paid his dues, got his street cred for how long he's done the Ultimate Spider-Man series, but he was on a cartoon on Disney XD. He voiced Spider-Man and Peter.
And I never thought how I met your mother, Neil Patrick Harris, as a Spider-Man.
You see, he only lasted about a season or maybe 2 seasons, I forget. It was on a 3D version of the MTV Spider-Man, which replaced certain characters with characters that were based off celebrities or characters of different colors. And
just like this movie.
Which I did like that part.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
They made the Kingpin black and had a voice by Michael Clark Duncan. This was around the time of the Daredevil movie, and this is also around the time they were trying to make an MCU. I'll give them that show credit. They were trying to make an MCU before there was an MCU, blending that Daredevil movie, kinda, with the Spider-Man movies. Then there was a lot of anger with Harry because his dad died because of Spider-Man in that show. But that's where Neil Patrick Harris came from.
I'll be darned. Well, that helped me out backlash, but
if we're gonna talk real quick about Spider-Man that have done it, I gotta give credit to Dan Gallivan, I think his name is, who did Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Christopher Daniel Barnes, who did the '90s Spider-Man.
Yeah, I see him on the list. How about that?
Yep, and Josh Keaton, who did the Spectacular Spider-Man, which this movie thinks it's slick. It did a couple things that made me think of Spectacular Spider-Man.
Are they spoilers?
One thing is, but I'll tell you this. Ned was Asian in Spectacular Spider-Man, going by Ned Lee, and now Ned is Asian in this movie. Liz was Latino to the point where I think she was mixed race in Spectacular Spider-Man. She's mixed race in this movie.
Which one's Liz again?
She was the girlfriend.
I know, but like in canon.
Liz...
Was she a created
Liz
character?
Allen, I think, was... It's hard for me because I don't...
Because I know there's Gwen Stacy, and I know there's Mary Jane.
Well,
and Felicia Hardy is another one. So this one's new.
And then Peter Parker, he has a bevy of babes. MJ's the most known, Gwen's the next most known. Felicia, unlike the 90s cartoon, she and Peter really never met like that, but it was more Black Cat and Spider-Man. Liz Allen was one of those girls that Peter did date for a while, but nothing really happened. And then there was Betty Brant, who is in this movie as a high school news reporter on their television. I'm pretty sure some of you guys had a program like that. But Betty in the comics, like Ned, they worked for a Daily Bugle. They were adults. Peter was either a young adult or just in college,
Mm-hmm.
So Peter dated her too. So Peter got around.
Peter got
around.
Yeah. But Liz is one of the girls that Peter legit dated. It's hard for me to really get too much more out of that because I didn't read the comics on Liz. She's more or less a B player in Peter's life in the comics, but again, they dated, so it fits the whole canon from the comics.
Pretty cool.
Well, if that's all, we can move on to the bats now.
Well, the only other thing that's good, I think, that I wanted to say it, that I really enjoyed, and I just can't say enough for the whole CGI thing. I loved it. It was very realistic. It made me feel like this is really him doing all these amazing things. I think seeing Tony Stark and all his great, fantastic toys, love that stuff.
Who doesn't love toys?
Love it. And it just was so perfect in the setting of what's going on in the movie. That's it.
Well, moving on to the bads, and I can't stress this enough. The movie was about as near perfect as I've seen since the last Marvel movie. So I don't really have any technical complaints. Only personal preference complaints, which are nitpicks, let's face it. But I'm going to address them anyway because I wouldn't be doing my job, A, if I did not, and B, I'm not a hypocrite. So let's get this started with the casting choices. They played the roles very well. Very eloquent for, like, teenagers. And, Dawson casting teenagers. I don't know. Even the current Spider-Man, he's British. Or English. English?
British.
Yeah. He's British, so there you go. Didn't even detect the accent hit one. However, I kind of had a We Are the World kind of vibe with this casting choice. And again, I am not saying that's a bad thing, But again, I'm not a hypocrite, and my stance on stop changing the colors of your cast of characters for comic books just because you want to be cool and trendy or for whatever reason you do it. It's just not how it was written. Like, for example, the character who played as Dash, right?
That's Danny Phantom. You mean Flash?
Flash, thank you. Flash Thompson, who was not a Native American, but Indian, or at least Indian descent gentleman, correct? The difference between Flash Thompson, a generic, like, high school-esque bully, and this guy is literally, and maybe even figuratively, night and day.
You know what? You're right. I mean, I think the one thing that is similar is that they both bully Peter.
Yes.
But I think that's the point.
But he was a millennial bully. There was nothing intimidating at this guy. Flash Thompson was he was your standard bully who hated Peter Parker but loved Spider-Man. This guy you did not even want to cross. This Flash Thompson I saw, he was just like some random nerd dude that I swear, if the movie didn't have him say like, oh, he's Flash Thompson, I would have never guessed he was Flash Thompson and not part of Peter's crew. It's like, he was like, he didn't have any sub-antagonist presence. He was just there and tried to be a jerk. And that's about as good as he could get it, being a jerk. He was not a douche. He was not a bully. He was just some guy. He was there. He was kind of boring. Who else? What's his name? The new Parker's best friend. Peter Parker's best friend. Ned. Again, I'm okay with that. It was a good choice, more or less. But thanks to Backlash, he reminded me of one thing. Where the heck is Norman Osborn? Peter Parker's true best friend?
Now you mean Harry Osborn.
Harry Osborn.
Norman Osborn will forever be Defoe.
I know, and he'll probably be back. But Harry Osborn, was the true best friend of Peter Parker. Now, if they would have made this character Harry, I would have been fine with that. He could have been Harry Osborn. As you know, Asian descent, that would have been fine. But making some other character Peter Parker's best friend doesn't make much sense. And, of course, Childish Gambino. He made it into the movie, guys. I won't tell you in what capacity. That's later for the Aftermath show. But he actually made it in. He wasn't Spider-Man, but he had an important role to play. But, again, would we need that character in this movie? I say no. It's just that whenever they were bringing Spider-Man back home, this homecoming, I would have been more respectful if they respected the source material.
Well, I think the characters that appeared or were not appearing were guilty of being omitted. I think they're trying to make a universe and layer it instead of trying to tell a straightforward. Excuse me.
Drinking again on your birthday, huh, Backlash?
Or just water. A straightforward.
It was a good birthday after all.
Yeah, a straightforward Spider-Man story, which, on the one hand, you don't want a straightforward Spider-Man story. It's like, oh, how many times do we need to see Uncle Ben die? But at the same time, you know, that's always been a problem of the Marvel movies. Edgar Wright quit Ant-Man because of this, you know? The director.
Why, you hated Spider-Man's Uncle Ben?
No, I mean, just try to set up for the Marvel's universe, they had to change Edgar Wright's script for Ant-Man, you know, and that's kind of the thing they do. They keep trying to set up for the future to make sure that everything is going correctly so they can fill in more and more gaps in their universe. And I think that's the problem I think you ultimately have.
Well, but I'm just going to put this as a point right now, and you'll see the problem I'm having. In the movie, we saw various trailers, and more or less they were okay. Nothing to really write home about until I saw the Black Panther trailer. That was going to be amazing, and it's on my birthday month, so that's what I'm going to go see for that. Now imagine Wakanda and, Black Panther, and he's fine. But you go to Wakanda a majority African, or an African like city state, I guess, and you find it replaced by, let's see, 5 Mexicans, 2 Irish, 3 Scottish, and 20 Canadians, just out of nowhere as some of the subcast. That would be a little off-putting. There's no reason for it, but they do it because of the, political correctness or something. Would that make sense in a Black Panther movie?
Absolutely not.
Would that even be allowed in a Black Panther movie?
Doubtful.
People would have a fit. Say, hey, why are all these other random not Africans in here? This is a Black Panther movie. And they said, well, we want to be political correct. It's a Black Panther for today's youth. They would have no. If you can't, you have to use the rule. If you can't do it for Black Panther, you can't do it for any other comic book. It's just not how to do it. Respect the source material. Otherwise, you're just being hypocrites. And I'm not a hypocrite, and that's why I brought it up. You guys may not like what I'm saying, but it's the truth if you think about it. But yeah, anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I respectfully disagree with Boss Bronze, only because everybody has an opinion, and I think that the audience kind of is allowed to share that. And I know a lot of people do agree with what Boss Bronze has said, because they've mirrored these things in so many other movies, like whenever they have renditions of Dragon Ball and had renditions of the the Shyamalan movie. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. What's the dude? Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, what's his movie that everybody hated the fact that it was not played by an Asian, that dude?
The Last Airbender?
The Last Airbender. So, I mean, it's that kind of sentiment is echoed within the people who are the primary moviegoers for these genre of movies. They're a lot of times very, very specific about what their expectation is. Because they do start off in the source long before the movies are made. I, on the other hand, go to some of these movies with a fresh perspective, because I am not so entwined in the source like Boss Bronze and Backlash are. And for me to see these individuals played out in this way, I found it very refreshing. I loved it. I thought it was really great to see it. The only nitpick I have about it is when they were in detention, there was only one guy in detention that was white. The rest of the guys were black in detention. That's, I'm sure.
Political correctness.
And believe me, Spidey
Political correctness.
Peter Parker got out of there real quick, so that left everybody black in detention. But that's just a nitpick. But overall, I thought, in that regard, I found the casting was great and refreshing. And I welcome to see that kind of thing more and more and more. Now, would I want to see a black James Bond? Yeah, actually, I would. I think Idris Elba would make a wonderful James Bond. But then I digress here. So I just felt that there is a group of people out there that probably feels strongly like Boss Bronze does. But then I also feel there's probably a lot of people that might feel like me too.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the other nitpicks, and again, that really was the only real nitpick that I noticed. And the other thing is really even less of a nitpick than that is Tony's role was just so amazing, and I really loved it. And even the Captain America little sequences here and there that you saw in the movie, and I won't elaborate on that, was pretty cool. I would like to see just a couple more little Avenger-esque things. But I mean, it is a Spider-Man movie, so I respect that. That's just a nitpick. And that's all I really had in the form of bads for me.
Well, I don't have too many bads, but I'll say, first and foremost, there's something that happens in a movie which, it's understandable. It's full of spoilers, so I won't elaborate too much. The movie would have been over if in an hour certain things had not taken place. And that, I mean, I usually don't like my Cinema Sins trivia to be that obvious that they even put it out in the movie that quick, Spider-Man's getting chastised by an adult because of his actions, and he pretty much inadvertently ruined a chance to stop the bad guys for good. But that's the one thing. The other thing is, the only thing, the reason that happened is because Happy was being a jerk. I like Jon Favreau's role in this. Overall, he was a good liaison, and he like Tony both did listen to Peter. But there's times where this guy was not communicating with this genius, this superhero that Tony put his trust into, and that falls on Happy for, at the very least, not taking him a little bit more seriously. We get it; he's a kid, you know, but
doesn't mean he's not has something important to say.
Yeah, I mean, after everything you've seen, the Chitauri invasion, the Ultron force, all the super villains. Well, look what happened to you. Look what happened to you. You got injured, and you almost died because of the extremist crew, and that still happened. And I just think that his forethought, just not taking Peter seriously, I think that hurt their opportunity to capture a villain. Peter has his part to play in that too, but they both, him and Happy, both screwed up. I'll just say that.
Well,
but
do you think in the aftermath you can elaborate a little more?
Yeah, I will. But the only other thing I can think of, and maybe they're leading up to this, and like I was saying about all the characters that were there, that they're setting up for, like making a 5-second appearance, like, hi, I'm this character from comics, or who they're clearly not showing. Maybe this is part of it, but I noticed, where's the spider sense? He did not use the spider sense once in the movie, and it effectively got replaced by something else. That's a spoiler. But the spider sense, usually that's essential. And that was maybe not completely missed, but it was, something felt off, and it wasn't there.
You're actually pretty right. I did sort of notice that, but I sort of written it off as something maybe internal that they didn't visualize for one reason or another. But you're right. I think they probably should have highlighted that more. That is one of the essential powers of Spider-Man. It's what keeps him alive most of the time. Yeah. But again, we'll discuss what they replaced it with in the aftermath. Anything else?
That's all.
Well, for me, I'm going to have to give this a platinum pass of perfection. Despite what Backlash just said about the lack of spider sense and my personal thinking about stop race swapping people, characters, because it's hip and cool today. The movie was outstanding, enjoyable, loved the story, loved the action, loved everything. Oh, and this is another bad, but still doesn't change the score. I wish I had more fights in the daytime. Too many night fights.
Yeah.
Hard to see everything in a night fight. But that's it.
I actually give it the platinum pass of perfection. I thought that the movie was refreshing. There was a lot of unique differences. This had a new, I believe, a new director on the movie. I think this was his first Spider-Man actual debut, and he was excited. John Watts actually was his name, and I think he did a stellar job. And I think the creators brought this special freshness because they wanted to delineate themselves from some of the previous installments of Spider-Man. Looking forward, I think we're going to see a lot of these characters coming back again in the next installations, and I believe there's as many as maybe 5 that they're anticipating seeing Spider-Man's presence in those next and upcoming movies. And I do believe the freshness of the actor who played this particular role of Spider-Man, I think was his name Mike Holland or Tom Holland. I think he's got that eagerness that can continue on for several more great adventures of Spider-Man. And I think seeing some of these little splashes of color will be back, like Ned. I'm sure he's going to handle that chair a little more. And it's going to be a great ride, I think, for this young cast. I'm looking forward to it. So, platinum pass to perfection.
All right, you know what? It didn't make me almost hold back tears like Guardians did. Yeah. No movie has done that yet. So it's still not. It's good. It doesn't hit that emotional point that Guardians did, but it does a lot of things well. A whole lot of things, you know? And I gotta say, I think the streak of Marvel having either forgetful or lame or dry villains is over. And Michael Keaton, he was fantastic. He was fantastic as a Vulture.
Yes.
You know, everything else worked into place. They got their stuff in for the next Spider-Man movies. And Tom Holland, at the end of the day, I still think Tobey Maguire, he can turn that range on like a water fountain. It takes Tom Holland a little bit more to get that emotion out of him. But ultimately, as far as the wisecracks and the snark and the keeping his head cool under pressure like Spider-Man would, he nailed it. Everything was so good about the movie. I have to give it a platinum pass for perfection because the stuff I said, you know, if you did this, the movie would be over. That's a nitpick. Spider Sense, especially how they address how he does without the Spider Sense, that's a nitpick. Platinum pass.
All right, well, that's it. Another Grand Slam breakfast movie from Marvel / Sony. Maybe if they could continue to play nice, they can continue to make more money with Spider-Man than they could apart. So, yeah, that's a lesson, you corporate, shrills out there. Do good for your fan base. Come out with awesome movies. Forget your grievances. Go out there and entertain the masses and make money.
Yay.
You will not regret.
Yay.
So we're going to move on to the aftermath right now, which for you guys at home will be a couple of days away. But until the aftermath, this is Wonder Woman Gamer Boss Bronze.
And the Informational Emperor 2, Backlash.
And the First Lady of Media Blue. Make sure you like us and subscribe to us. Hit that subscribe button. Become one of us. One of us. One of us.
Or not. We don't care. Yes, we do.
Yes, we absolutely do. And we miss you. And if you have comments, certainly put them in there.
Oh,
if you've
please.
seen the movie, tell us what you think. Tell us what you'd like to see different. If you got a different ending for the movie, by all means, add it to the comments. We'd love it. We'll get back to you with what we think about what you said. If it's something that they should do, maybe in the next installment.
Or maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm lazy. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, this
Friendly
neighborhood Spider-Man.